Instagram can be a tricky platform for private tuition businesses because commonly we just attract other educators and they're not really our target audience. Now, later on in the video, I will actually talk about how you can use those relationships so that you're attracting clients. Now, this is something we covered in a lot of depth in the Tutors Mastermind recently. We had a group coaching session about all these different strategies and there was lots of actionable advice. So if you want to watch the recording, if you want to catch up with that, then click the link in the notes about the Tutors Mastermind and you'll see what your options are. I've also got a free podcast episode for you to listen to where I cover this from a different angle. All of the links are below. But let's get started. 3 ways that you can use Instagram as a private tutor. The first thing is to use your existing relationships with your clients and your customers and your students. We often focus on attracting new followers and new connections, but if you think about it, you've already done the groundwork. You've got a great relationship with your clients, they think the world of you, and chances are they might well be on Instagram. So firstly, there's no harm in just sharing your Instagram handle and asking them to give you a follow and maybe asking them to share. I'm sure they wouldn't mind. I know if someone asked me, I wouldn't mind doing that. Another way is to get really creative, to encourage them to interact with your profile and your content. One of these ways could be to share your students' work, celebrate your students' work and their progress. So let's say you're in a lesson and your student's done some amazing work. You're really proud. They feel really proud. You could say to them, I'm going to share this on my Instagram profile so that you can inspire other students as well. Now, of course, that's a great boost for confidence, isn't it? I mean, it's so complimentary, but also it means that they'll get excited and they're likely to go on Instagram if they have a profile, or at least ask their parents to go on Instagram if they have a profile. So it creates a buzz around your profile with your existing customers. Now that means they're definitely likely to follow you, but they're also likely to share because they feel proud. And the people that they share with might be in similar positions to them where they are looking for a tutor or they'd benefit from a tutor. You could also, if you feel brave enough, do something like a student takeover. So you could speak to one of your students and say, right, you're taking over my profile for a week. I will post what you tell me to post. Now, that's a really fun way. They're getting involved. Again, it's exciting. And you could give them a little bit of guidance so it all stays appropriate. You could ask them, maybe on day 1, you could say, right, I want you to tell me your 3 favorite things about our tuition lessons. Or you could say, share your top tips for, and you can choose a topic that you support them with. And that way, you're showcasing your relationship with other students for anyone who's looking at your profile, but also you're getting them involved and you're encouraging more of the right followers. My tip number 2 is to actually engage with accounts who have similar interests. In terms of your target audience, here's what I mean. If you teach slightly older students who are likely to be on Instagram, then you'll notice there are a lot of Studygram accounts. Now, there are lots of other ones related, but I'm just going to choose Studygram as an example. Now, this is where students create a profile purely to share their revision notes and top tips and how beautifully they present their notes. And it's a bit of a passion project. They're not really running a business as such. And it means they're really interactive as well. They're really conversational. So when I was using Instagram for my tuition business, which I don't anymore, but when I was, one of the things that I did was I would connect with a lot of Studygram accounts and I would comment on their content. Now, whenever I choose to comment, I always make sure it's genuine. If I don't have anything to say, I don't say it, because I think it's really transparent when you're kind of faking a comment just to boost your visibility, for example. So I used to interact, and then that meant they used to reply, and we had this kind of relationship going. And it also meant that because comments are public, it meant that more students started following me. And then off the back of that, they would approach their parents and say, look, I found this really good tutor. I really like their, what they share. And then it started to bring in some inquiries. Now, I'm going to be honest, when you are teaching younger students, Instagram's quite tough to get those new clients through. It's not impossible, but it's tough. It tends to be most effective when you're teaching those older students, mainly because they're more likely to be on Instagram. When you're teaching students that are over the age of 16, it's even more effective because they're also usually part of the buying decision. So they often will say to their parents that, look, I found this really good tutor, and they'll be proactive about it. Now, of course, I'm generalizing here, but that's generally a trend that I've found with myself and my clients. Now, my third tip is what I promised, and that is, how can you use your existing connections if you're connected with lots of educators to bring in more business? Now, in my opinion, collaboration is brilliant. Why not use those opportunities? So if I teach English and I notice someone else teaches maths and I know that all my students are taking maths as well as English, or I get asked a lot about, do you know any good maths tutors? Then maybe I could use Instagram to connect with some maths tutors who I think I might resonate with. Maybe I can have some conversations. Maybe we could run a joint webinar as a kind of promotional thing where we're both doubling up on the audience that we're reaching. Maybe we can create something paid together with our subjects that are complementing each other. And of course, if I get to know that tutor, then I will feel comfortable to recommend them. I get asked, I'm sure you do as well, all the time for recommendations for tutors for other subjects. Now, I only recommend people who I absolutely trust, where I know enough to know that, I'm making a really good recommendation. I don't just recommend people because I've seen them floating around on social media. So if you start developing some of those relationships, you'll have people who you trust that you can recommend people to. And of course, they're likely to reciprocate as well. So there you have it, 3 really quick things that you can maybe change about how you're using Instagram. Number 1 is to involve your existing clients. Number 2 is to get in front of more of the right people, connect with some accounts, engage with their content. And number 3 is to use your connections, even if they aren't your target audience, in a different way through relationships to build a network of educators where you're kind of working together. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to add, then please do write it in the comments and we can continue the conversation in there.